People in our own backyards are hurting. There are insecurities around food, economics, mental health, access to justice, healthcare, and our society continues to become more divisive. But there is hope. Right here in Chicagoland, there are people and organizations who are on the front lines, working to bring about positive and transformative change. Each week, we're going to meet some of these agents of change and examine how they are spurring innovative ideas and finding solutions to push our society forward in a more just direction. I'm Sufyan Sohel, and this is Change Agents. In 2020, an estimated 1 in 8 Americans were food insecure. This equates to 38 million Americans, including 12 million children, who had a lack of consistent access to enough food to lead an active, healthy life. Food insecurity continues to be a problem for many Chicagoans. There are estimated to be more than 500,000 Chicagoans facing hunger and food insecurity. In what a report by the Chicago Food Depository calls a crisis of inequity, food insecurity rates are significantly higher in Chicago's Black and Latino families. 19% of people in the Chicago metro region face food insecurity, and that figure rises to 29% in Latino communities and 37% in Black communities. For far too many Chicagoans, this has become a way of life. Meeting the very basic need of food has become a challenge that many of us, myself included, have never experienced. Today, we are going to learn more about this crisis and meet some change agents working to ensure that our neighbors facing food insecurity have the essential resources they need. Through locations in Edgewater and Rogers Park, Care for Real provides food, clothing, referrals, amongst other services with a mission to improve the health and well-being of low-income residents and to foster a stronger, healthier, equitable, and more stable community. Our first guest today is Care for Real's Director of Development and Communication, Jen Kouba. Jen, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Can you tell us more about food insecurity, and especially how it relates to Chicago?
Sure. Well, first I'll start with the stats across the state of Illinois. We have about 1.2 million residents that are facing hunger and food insecurity, including 1 in 8 children across the state of Illinois experiencing food insecurity. In Care for Real's region in particular, we're operating on the far north side of Chicago. About 45,000 of our neighbors in our direct service area are experiencing hunger and food insecurity. So as you mentioned, there is a disproportionate rate of food insecurity on the south and west side, but we also, when you look at the map, we do have higher rates of food insecurity in Rogers Park, Uptown, Edgewater, West Ridge, and other areas in the vicinity of our pantries.
You've had over 1,600, you just told me earlier, new families in the last year or so come and obtain your services. What is the cause of that?
That's right. So Care for Real is seeing a 332% increase compared to last year at this time, of families visiting our pantries for the first time. And we're finding that individuals are facing the record high rates of inflation, with especially high rates of expensive food costs, higher transportation costs, supply chain issues that are making it really difficult for basic essentials to be purchased by some of our more vulnerable families. But a lot of individuals who maybe were able to make ends meet prior to the surge in the price of food now are finding themselves needing to ask for help. And so individuals that we're serving are working, they're employed, they might be able to fill their gas tank, but they can't afford healthy and nutritious food to feed their families.
So food insecurity is not an isolated issue.
That's right. So we serve a very diverse population of folks, all different ages. At Care for Real, we do have about a quarter of the individuals that we serve is they're senior aged, and then we also have a big population of young families who are visiting us. So they come to visit us for baby products and formula, especially following that shortage that we experienced earlier this year. And it certainly isn't isolated. We have never seen lines this long in our 52-year history at Care for Real. The need is going up, up, up.
Talk about the pandemic and how that resulted in confusion, chaos, uncertainty for a lot of the families you're serving.
Absolutely. So individuals who are maybe living a bit precariously on the brink of, facing poverty and already facing some challenges. If they are working at a minimum wage job and then they lose that job, they might not have the safety net that they need. And so Care for Real really steps forward as a safety net for the community, for those vulnerable neighbors. So individuals were experiencing unemployment, the kids, especially initially at the beginning of the pandemic, who were relying on school lunches until that got figured out. We were seeing more young families coming to visit us, and unhoused residents. We saw so many more people experiencing homelessness amid the pandemic and coming to visit Care for Real. We take pride in being able to serve all different people with different backgrounds, different needs, and operate as a choice pantry so that we can meet those unique and individual needs.
Thank you so much for sharing that. What brought you to Care for Real? I mean, you were in education, then you were working on homelessness issues, and now you're working on food insecurity and those broader issues. So tell me a little bit about that transition.
Sure. So I am so proud to be able to be part of this work at Care for Real. My journey in social services started at a community organization focused on homeless services, and I found myself craving a small, true community organization and was so happy to find that at Care for Real. We have a really large population of volunteers that serve the community. They live in the community. Most of the staff, myself included, I got so enamored with the community that we serve that I actually just recently moved to the area. It's a community pride point, and to be able to be part of that, to get to know the neighbors that we serve and to serve alongside my neighbors and give back to the community to meet this basic need and know that we're filling the most basic need that we all have. We all have to eat every day, and knowing that we're doing our part so that our neighbors can thrive and that we can have a healthier community. So I feel so lucky to be able to work alongside this hardworking team of 12 and over 550 volunteers each year.
Oh, I love that. So if someone wanted to become more engaged with Care for Real, what could they do?
There's so many different opportunities to support Care for Real. As the real, true community organization that we are, we rely on the support of so many to be able to do the work that we do. While we receive most of our food from the Greater Chicago Food Depository, as well through our food rescue program, where we go around to retail partners across the city to pick up unnecessary food waste that we can repurpose to utilize at the food pantry. We do rely on the community for donations of in-kind items. Things that our neighbors can't use their SNAP benefits for are their food stamps that they're often known as. So personal care items, black hair care products, toiletries, baby products, and things like that our clients can come and request every 30 days. So hosting a collection drive or perhaps coming in for one of our many volunteer shifts. We're a 7-day-a-week organization, so we have opportunities for volunteers to get involved during the day, at nighttime, on the weekends. So there's really a spot for everyone. And then, of course, financial support. People can make a financial donation in addition to the in-kind donations to help us feed more neighbors in need.
Oh, that's so wonderful. You had 60,000 food pantry visits last year. Tell me about who these people are, where they're coming from.
Absolutely. So during the pandemic, our partners encouraged us to let go of any service boundaries we have and just make sure that we're feeding as many people as we can. While that might be a temporary situation for Care for Real, right now we're welcoming any Chicago resident in need of access to food. And so we have individuals that are coming a great distance at times because they trust us. They rely on us, and they formed relationships with our staff, with our volunteers. They know that they can access what they want and what they need. We have a lot of cultural foods. We have plant-based items, the ready-to-eat items for our unhoused neighbors. And so we really work hard and take great pride in being able to meet those unique needs of the diverse populations that we serve. But we do have the majority of the folks that we're serving in our immediate area of our pantries. We have our Edgewater pantry. We were formed by the Edgewater community and remain there for the last 50 years. And so we do have a lot of folks that live in Edgewater, Uptown, Andersonville, Ravenswood. But then during the pandemic, we launched our Rogers Park pantry in response to requests from the Rogers Park community. And so we have a lot of recently resettled immigrants visiting in Rogers Park, a lot of non-native English-speaking residents that are visiting the Rogers Park pantry. And we also have a drive-through pantry there. And those are often families driving through with their kids in the back, picking them up after school, people coming home from work that have very full and busy lives, but still need our help.
That's so wonderful to hear. Thank you so much for sharing. You were telling me earlier that you helped a client 35 years ago whom recently reconnected with your organization. Can you tell me a little bit about that, please?
I'd be so happy to. That was a bright spot of last week. So I serve as the Director of Development and have the great privilege of working with our supporters. And every once in a while we get a little surprise where a former client will reach out to support us. And so we received a beautifully handwritten note with a note of appreciation from a former client sharing that they were a client when they were going through a very rough part of their life and that they relied on us at Care for Real to provide regular food every week, but also to make holidays extra special. And they enclosed a nice, generous gift in that letter of thanks because now they are in a better position to be able to support us.
Oh, I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jen, for being with us today and for all the great work you're doing for Care for Real. And we'll be right back with Dion Dawson for Dion's Chicago Dream up next.
Hi, I'm Darius Hillman, inviting you to join me and this man right here, nonprofit executive, community leader, wildly successful artist, and he can sing too, Jeffrey Beckham Jr., on the next edition of In the Arena. Honest, thoughtful, compelling conversations with a decidedly Chicago flavor. In the Arena, Friday at 7 p.m. on CAN TV 19 and streaming on cantv.org.
Welcome back to Change Agents. My next guest is Dion Dawson with Dion's Chicago Dream, an organization working to combat food insecurity and address the Chicago food deserts that exist throughout our city. Dion, thank you so much for joining me.
Glad to be here.
Dion, I live in the South Loop. Within a mile of my house, I have 5 grocery stores. I have a Whole Foods, a Mariano's, 2 Targets, and a Jewel.
Yes.
Not everyone in Chicago has access to grocery stores like I do.
Not at all.
Can you tell me more about that, please?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different terms when you're talking about food and access. You have, food insecurity, you have food deserts, you have food apartheid. But at the most basic level is just, residents not having the best opportunity at getting fresh produce. So that could look like a multitude of things. That can look like, having the money, not having, access. It can look like not having the money or having the access. In the way of our food deserts, you have different communities that don't have a grocery store, period. You know what I mean? It's not, they can't afford it. It's not there. And so when you're talking about access and what Dion Chicago Dream does is that we want to stabilize that, but also thinking at how we do it. So you can solve a food desert beyond just putting a grocery store there. And so those are just a few different things when you're talking about food and social impact, asking the necessary questions to start really trying to switch up what's normally been done.
I have 2 questions, but I'm gonna go with one first.
Talk to me.
I read your profile. You're an Echoing Green Fellow, an Amex Fellow. I think you just finished your
Yes.
fellowship with that. You just did a TEDx last
Yes.
week. You're all over social media. I love seeing your posts. Tell me more about this dream and your work and your inspiration behind what you're trying to do.
Definitely. Well, when you look at my background, we had a period when I was a kid, we were unhoused, food insecure, hungry, and I have that lived experience. And so in starting my organization, I was able to couple that and create an organization where the impact is not focused on tonnage, it's focused on stabilizing access and quality. And what that looks like was starting in 2020 with a fridge, a community fridge outside, to then morphing into a direct-to-consumer logistics operation where we're moving more than 11,000 pounds of produce per month to more than 1,300 residents per week.
11,000 a month.
Yes.
Over 100,000 pounds a year.
Yes.
Where are you getting this food from?
We're buying it.
You're buying it.
So when you're talking about food insecurity, you can fight food insecurity by preventing food waste, but that's not the only way. A lot of people, don't address buying their food, but why not? You know what I mean? We have to stabilize quality. And when we're looking at fighting something like food insecurity, like hunger, we have to make sure that we're not taking an old banana from Streeterville and dropping it in Inglewood and treating it like it's brand new. You know what I mean? And so I just decided to draw a hard line when we're talking about that quality, that of the 175,000 pounds that we've provided since August of 2020, every single piece of produce has been brand new.
Dion, why is fresh produce important, and where are you getting it all from?
I think it's important because if you look at the definition of food insecurity, it's there plain as day. It's the lack of consistent, healthy options. And when the option isn't fresh, that's when, the healthiness of it comes into question. And so I just decided, how can we, stabilize programs without stabilizing how we actually get the food to the people? And we get our produce from Jab Produce, our wholesaler, who we buy everything from. So we have a great relationship. We have a set menu that we go off of, and it's a combination of fruits and vegetables, and it goes out every single week to the household.
Let's go back. You seem fairly young, 20 years. Tell me what in your life led you to this aha moment that you said, this is the problem I see. I want to spend my life focused on addressing this problem and helping my communities out.
I think that all of this, with a lot of us in Chicago, that time of reckoning was when George Floyd was murdered. And I think we all responded in some type of way. And for me, it was like, okay, I want to help my community. How? And without thinking, I immediately went to feeding my community, not knowing at the time why it was so important to me. And then from there, the moment was just about accountability. If you look at the nonprofit model, specifically food distribution and food pantries, it's been the same since the 60s in Arizona. And we have not evolved the model. We have not really asked ourselves to what end are these programs, for, and what are they serving? And it's a lot of these programs and organizations, they serve the donor and not the end user. And so instead with Dion Chicago Dream, we're just solely focused on the end user experience. The donor, if their heart is pure and it's in the right place, then they'll look at our impact because we're updating social media every day, because we're updating our website bi-weekly. We're holding ourselves accountable to not have to get ready. We're already ready. Talking points don't have to be held until we want to get money out of somebody. No, everybody should know so that in their way, they can take a piece of our work and even evolve it from there.
I love that. I feel there's so many organizations working on food insecurity.
Yes.
Why can't we find a more permanent solution to this problem?
Well, I think that the problem is not the food. Of course, we address it at the organizational level, and even it's tied to my own personal ethos. But I think it's the way that we deliver social services and actually addressing immediate needs. And so when you're talking about food, clothing, shelter, how are we creating a foundation so that we know what we're giving somebody, who that somebody is, where they are, and we build that cadence with talking to them. And so the sweet sauce of Dion Chicago Dream is not that we're giving them fresh produce. It's that we're doing bi-weekly connections with the household to get perception-based data around how they feel about it. That's the key. The key is creating a conversation and actually knowing and treating them as if they know what's best for themselves. And I think that's where philanthropy has gotten lost is that it's not about us thinking we know what's best for the resident or the recipient. It's us allowing them to choose what's best for them and continuing to educate and create conversations so that we can grow with them as opposed to just giving them what we think they deserve.
Interesting. How does the city come into this, right? These are Chicago residents who are struggling.
Yes.
They have the ability to lure in grocery stores and maybe markets and other things to some of these communities where they may not have access at lower cost. What do you see, and what are you hearing and seeing on the ground about that?
Well, I mean, the difference is that we don't have to wait for a grocery store. The difference is that while we're still, some organizations and some politicians and some people are reeling from the Whole Foods announcement that was over a month ago, we fed people every day since. That's the key, is that if you look at outside of the sector, everybody has created a direct-to-consumer model because they had to. If you look at the pandemic, it's 2 years of 10 years worth of change. You know what I mean? And so the only thing that I decided to do, and you know what my team is amazing at, is that we don't focus on how we wish things were. We wake up, and if we got that opportunity to wake up, then we know that we're going to feed people. We know that we're going to make people's lives better, and we're going to hit the ground running. I can't open, the cards that I'm dealt and wish I had a spade. If I have a jack of clubs, that's my card. You know what I mean? And I have to appreciate that that's what I was dealt, because there are people that don't have any cards.
Very true. And what's our duty then for those who don't have any cards?
Well, I mean, our duty is to make it better for them. You know what I mean? I think that looking at the whole playing field, we're fighting food insecurity, and everybody is fighting it in a way that only addresses those who are unhoused. You know what I mean? What about those people who are working all day and missed all of the food giveaways? You know what I mean? What about those people, the older demographic, who's been shut in their home trying to survive the pandemic and can't get out of safety, for themselves and for their health? And so, when you're looking at people without cards, it's like, no, we still have to communicate with them. We still have to talk to them because they're equal. I don't speak for them. I speak to them. And because in my life and in my operations, I'm around those people more than other leaders. It allows me to stay grounded and keep the immediacy that's needed to fight this problem head on. This is not something that we can wait for. This is not something that we hope to be better. We can't wait for a grocery store. People eat every day, and we have the resources. Contrary to, the fear-mongering, this is the biggest giving moment in history in philanthropy. We just have to kind of shift where all that money is going and put our money where our mouth is.
As an organization, what would you say is your biggest challenge?
It will always be awareness and resources. We need more money, and our organization and myself, we post every day, because if everybody's on the internet, then so will we. We'll be there, and we'll show people, and we'll always build value and show impact, and immediately give them the respect of being someone that receives a lot of information. People know real. You know what I mean? At whatever level and whatever intellect level and whatever background. Food insecurity is not a black, brown, or white issue. It's a human issue. And so because of that, we've created a program where we don't focus on all of the noise. We don't have to. Our goal is to stabilize food insecurity and fight it so that as an organization, we can provide a household with a year's worth of fresh produce for $1,000 a year. So
That's
instead
incredible.
of spending $100,000 on one feeding event, you could have spent $100,000 and had 100 households be totally food secure. It's about giving the other side of the coin, and that's what we're doing.
That's amazing. $1,000.
$1,000.
Feed fresh produce for a year.
And we have no volunteers, and we've created 7 jobs.
But what if I just want to come one weekend and help out?
No,
Okay.
because when people see, and this is why, I feel strongly about it, is because in a capitalist society, we can't devalue the time of our residents. If I had volunteers, they wouldn't look like me because they can't afford it. And so you wanting to help out, there's ways you can. And I'm not negating that, but people eating should not be dependent upon if you feel like volunteering. Because if we only, that's why we've been able to stabilize delivery, because we pay people for their time. We're paying them an honest wage. That's why we've been able to do that. I don't, like, if I had 100 volunteers, as soon as we get 2 feet of snow, it's not going to be 100 again. You can't scale volunteerism. And I don't want to take advantage of people just for the sake of telling them that they do good.
That's fair. How many people are you serving right now?
We're serving 1,300 residents in 20 Chicagoland neighborhoods every week.
But you have a wait list.
Yes, of 520 homes, all by word of mouth.
So what is your goal or your dream to serve those people?
Oh, no, it's not a dream or goal. We're going to. That's it. So I'll go out and get every single dollar that I have to until we continue to have more organizations, meet us in the middle and we find ways to partner with them. I'm not averse to doing it. It's just that it's simple. It's like when I decided to leave in this space, I inherited a problem that we have to fix. So I don't wake up and say, hey, we're doing a great job. I wake up and I apologize because we're doing a horrible job. It doesn't absolve me of any blame or responsibility, because as a sector, we have to do better. We have to create a way, and that's what Dream Deliveries is. It's a conduit for other social services. We're just mastering food. But, when it comes to those residents, whether they're on the waiting list or they don't even know about us yet, I feel compelled to help them because we're supposed to. Philanthropy is about hope. Philanthropy is about having people believe that tomorrow can be better, or hell, today can be better. That's what I have to be. And every day, if I'm not good at it, I have to get better at it. And I have to make sure that I am who I say I am. And my organization, we're doing what we say we're doing. And the difference with us and other organizations is we don't wake up and prove our impact. We just wake up and share it.
I love it. I know just talking to you, I'm getting a lot of hope for the future of our city as
Appreciate
well.
it.
But what do you see as a last question? Where would you like the organization to be in terms of numbers or people served in a year or 5 years?
I actually don't think like that.
Okay.
2 years ago, Well, it's 2022. So about 3 years ago, my mom got kidney cancer. She beat it, thank God. But I don't think 5 years in the future. We just had a 2-year span where everything that could have been thrown at us was. And so it's like, okay, we have a nonprofit that started with $0.
Yeah.
When we started our bank account, I borrowed the $100.
What are you at now?
Well, this year we're on pace to be a $1.2 million organization.
Fantastic.
And so, if I judged it by those standards of, in 5 years I'd like to be, no. Every day, every single day, if I wake up, I go 100% until I lay my head down. And I reconcile my heart and my head. And I know I gave everything I had, but every single day is an opportunity. That's why you say you see me every day, is because I'm not leaving anything up for debate. I'm not leaving any energy for tomorrow. I'm going to max out because our residents deserve it.
I'll tell you, it's the highlight of my social media scrolling of seeing your posts.
I appreciate that.
I hope your dreams is a dream for all of us and all of our viewers watching, and that you're able to continue the great work that you're doing. Thank you so much, Dion, for joining us today. And we'll be right back with this week's Change in Action. In today's Change in Action, I would like to introduce you to Davion, a delivery assistant at Dion Chicago Dream who makes more than 150 deliveries a week to Chicago residents. His favorite part of his job is interacting with all the residents to whom he delivers and in seeing the joy upon their faces when receiving their groceries. Davion wanted to be a part of something bigger than himself and joined Dion Chicago Dream to make an impact on his neighbors, his community, and his city. Our city, Chicago. Thank you, Davion, for living this change through your service. Thank you also to Jen and Dion for joining us today. To learn more about Care for Real and Dion Chicago Dream and ways to support their incredible work, please visit the links listed in the credits and on the CAN-TV website. There's so many ways, both big and small, in which you and I can bring positive change into the lives of our neighbors and the communities around us. I urge us all to look inside ourselves and, like Davion, Dion, and Jen, find something bigger to be a part of or to give back to. Each of us has the power to make a difference. Let us all be change agents. See you all next week.